and Sonia Bermonti. Did I say it right that time?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're going to start with you, Sonia Bermonti. So, because I want to know something about. You say you used to be homeless.
Yes, sir.
So, as a homeless person, how does it feel to be homeless?
Wow. So, one thing I will say about when you're homeless, there's no characteristics that anyone sees you as other than nothing. It doesn't matter how wonderful of a person you are. It doesn't matter if you're beautiful, if you're ugly. You could have done great deeds all your life, but as soon as you're homeless, you're just nothing.
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 Okay. So how does that make you feel when you're nothing?
It was really hard. I was homeless when I was 14.
Wow.
In the streets of New York, and there's a lot of things that happened to me while I was homeless. I won't really share, but I'll just say I'm now 47 years old, and I'm still traumatized by the things that happened to me when I was 14, homeless. There's just, you don't get the help that you need. You're not viewed as a person, almost just, you know, it's almost like people walk by you like you're just a empty can of soda on the ground or something. Just you want to kick it out of your way and just keep it moving. And that's what I'm seeing out here, and it plays part of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And really the fire to the ice, I guess, was I received a phone call in September of 2021 from the state police, and my name came up in a cold case file. They had called to see if I was still alive, and they were asking me about girls that I was homeless with in the area, if I knew where they were and had heard about them, so on and so forth. It was brought to my attention that there was a serial killer in the area targeting girls my age at the time that were homeless and killing them, raping them and killing them. It instantly brought back all the feelings that I thought that I really feel like God has brought me a great peace in my life. I really thought that I was over the things that I went through, but when I received that call, it instantly all came back to me, and I just knew in that moment. There was a couple other things that were happening at the time, but I just knew kind of in that moment, almost instantaneously, that what I've been talking about doing for so long, which was trying to help people that are homeless, is something that I needed to do, and I've been doing it since October 2021.
Now, it must be more particularly difficult for women when they're homeless than it is for men, right? You think?
Well,
a lot different, at least.
I'm finding I can't really speak of it when I was homeless with the. I can't really speak as to whether it was more difficult for males versus females when I was homeless, because I think I was just enwrapped in my own misery. But when I hit the streets, what I can say is I think it's equally difficult. Although I would say as a woman, especially, you know, having menstruations and stuff like that, not being able to shower, not having places that, a lot of places are not allowing homeless people to go to use their restrooms, so on and so forth. So I guess from a hygiene standpoint, it is much more difficult for a woman on the street than it is for a man. Also, when it comes to women are used more as a sexual tool. So when you're homeless and you're a woman, you know, a woman might sleep with somebody just for a meal. A man may not have that, like, advance. It's horrible to even call that an advance, but a man, you know, I don't see that necessarily a man would be picked up and offered a meal to have sex with somebody, or, you know, whatever they may need, as much as a woman would be, or a female would be targeted more for sexual favors, for just everyday needs,
right?
Even a shower, maybe.
Yeah. So tell us about your ministry that has evolved because of these experiences that you've had in the past.
Well, I can't really take any credit for anything, but I'll just say that God has definitely evolved this ministry in just so many ways. So like when we originally started, we being me and my Shih Tzu, I originally started this with my Shih Tzu, Sunny, and the plan was to just go out with lunches and just be someone that would go out a couple hours a day and interact with homeless people and provide them a lunch. I almost immediately realized that the need wasn't for someone to be out there handing out lunches. The need was for someone to really be interacting and relationship and listening to what the needs are. So there's not a lack of food in the area. There's an abundance of food. There's a lack of resource. There's a lack of compassion. There's a lack of beds. There's a lack of, drug addiction programs, mental health services, even the resources that are available. The one hand doesn't know what the other's doing. There's gaps all over the place. There's not follow-up. So I just started just listening to the people. And so what I thought was going to be a couple cabinets in my kitchen almost 2 years ago now, I thought this was just going to be, a couple cabinets in the kitchen and, maybe a shelf in the refrigerators, making sandwiches and bringing out lunches. And this is my whole house is consumed with donations. We had, instantly started collecting clothes from people. Then it turned into shoes, socks, toiletry, everything that you could imagine. Then that turned into housewares, and now we're helping anyone who reaches out. And we don't pry into people's, reasons whys and, all this kind of stuff that they may have to deal with if they reach out to like an actual resource provider. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I don't want to downplay what resource providers do. Obviously they do amazing work, but there are some people who are in position to help people that see the job as just a job and nothing more. And this kind of field, you got to have heart in what you're doing. You have to have compassion for people. So I won't speak for Sonia, but I will say for myself personally, when a person reaches out to me, if I have it, it's theirs. I don't care about the background story.
Sure.
God gives me, I give them. That's it. It's that simple.
Well, praise the Lord. So now, that was Sonia Bermonti. Now I'd like to switch over to Sonia Bennett. So Sonia, tell us something about yourself and how you got involved in the ministry that you're doing.
So I started volunteering at Loaves and Fishes, Hidden Treasures, the Dominican Sisters in Sabatis. We used to work out of the garage, and then the need was so huge that the food bank needed more space, and we needed more space to help people. And so they rented out another building out in Sabatis, and we outgrew that, and then they moved us to Lewiston. So we're in Lewiston. We have a store, and a lot of people donate items at the store, and we sell things, but that money goes back into the community to help the people in need, and we also give to whoever comes in that needs help with whatever. And so we're like plopped in the middle of, all of a sudden we're coming across people that were homeless, that were lonely, widowers, unhoused children, adults, and we had to learn on the way, but it really laid heavy in my heart. I started working at a place, and I was new to the faith actually at that time, and my question was about salvation. I didn't want to be too pushy. I didn't know how to talk about it or anything like that, and I prayed on that. It was like 10 o'clock at night the night before, and 7 o'clock the following morning I received a call to work at their place. And I remember walking around, because I'm carrying conversations with God throughout the day, and I'm like, Lord, I don't know why I'm here, but I recognize that you opened this up, because I didn't even apply for this place. And I was walking around, and I came across an elderly lady whose husband was angry, and he was frustrated, and he was towards hospice work for a while. And I sat next to her, and so I asked her, would you mind if I go see your husband? Because I recognize a lot of those signs that when they're angry, it's usually, a couple different things it is. And he didn't know me, so it's easier to open up. And then I met a prostitute, and I asked her her story, I said, do you mind sharing how did you get into prostitution? And she had quite a history, you know, in her family, and it's what she knows. And so over time, I just kept carrying conversation, and then she brought another prostitute, another. So I would sit in the middle of 5 prostitutes, and would I have thought of, you know, a few months previous that I would ever be doing that in my life? No. But God did. He knew that there was a purpose, and all I could think of is Jesus and the prostitute, Jesus and the prostitute. And so I learned their stories, and it really makes a connection when you hear people share where they're coming from, and then we get this inclination, you know, about talking about God, talk about, you know, salvation and stuff, and it always works when you get that. And I was there for 2 years, and it felt complete, and that's how I ended up at Loaves and Fishes. Oh, jeez, I can go on and on. God is great, that's all I could say, but we were smack in the middle of everything, and so we had to learn, and my heart was, like, I saw a lot of women that didn't know who they were anymore. And I'm like, Lord, I want to do something, I don't know what it is or whatever, and I ended up going back to school, and so I'm going to school for Christian counseling, and so I can help empower people recognize who God sees them as, and show them, you know, and I can do secular, non-secular, which is, you know, good, really good. It's a Christian college I go to. And then I met Sonia not too long after. So it wasn't too long after you had your ministry that, because it was November when you came to the store,
Yeah.
and with the coats and stuff. So it wasn't that, and we just like connected. Yeah. We both had that passion for people, and we're like, and she's like, let's do this. And so it's been like that ever since. We do things separately, but we also do things together.
Right.
And in our first event, we did at Bonnie Park, we expected about 100 people, and we had 313. And we had a literal Loaves and Fishes moment, a biblical, you know, I always told Sonia, I said, you want to see how God works? Watch. Our main goal is to set up the tables, and that's it. Right. We just man the food, and then we just interact with people, because that's what God did. He did so great. We just went around, he shared stories, he heard their stories, and we just kind of do that and make them feel like, you know, that they're seen.
Right.
And that was very important. And we had a lot of amazing things that happened. And so as we saw people coming in, I was like, oh boy, you know, I had, you know, $200 to buy the food for the event, and you're trying to stretch it, and I figured for 100 people, and we got 313. And a lady came over, and she's like, what's going on here? And we told her, and about an hour later she came up with 20 pounds of pasta salad. And then we had someone show up with a cooler of drinks, and a dolly full of drinks, and then we had a cooler full of yogurt, fresh fruit, and granola, and we had enough food to feed everybody, plus give anyone that needed takeout. We made sure everybody had food to take with them, and whatever was left, we gave it to the drop-in center. So God provided, like, no tomorrow. And I'm like, do you guys realize what just happened? We literally had a Loaves and Fishes biblical event. Praise God for that, I tell you, because it was just...
Okay, now you have an event coming off in August. You want to tell us something about that?
September.
In September, yeah.
August, yes. August I have the Fill a Backpack program for the kids.
Okay, how does that work?
So people donate, we make a list. People donate items for the school kids to fill their backpacks, and then we bring them to the schools. And a lot of the teachers know the unhoused kids, there's a lot of kids, and they hand them out to them so they have something. Okay. And if we have an overabundance, then what we do is in January we go back and we deliver the rest of them. And they're really happy with that, because by then the kids already used what was given to them. So that's basically what it is to help the kids. And we get calls all the time from the school systems, you know, like I have some kids with no coats, I have some kids with, you know, no gloves, or they don't even have, you know, what they need, the basic stuff. And we're like, okay, let's put it together, and then we go to school and we drop it off, you know. And that's the beauty of that. You know, we all have excess of things that we hold on to, or we're a consuming society, you know. Sure. And we can all give something to help. Simple stuff. It's all simple stuff, everything.
Yeah,
But-
it's always the simple stuff that works the best, right?
Yeah, and that's in August. And then Sonia has her event in September. Yeah, on September 30th.
September 30th, I'm going to, Sonia and I will be tabling at Kennedy Park for the presentation of the Clothesline Project. So the Clothesline Project is a project that I recently introduced to the area. It's not a project I created, full disclosure. Clothesline Project is something that's been around for many years, but I've taken that idea of the Clothesline Project and reinvented it for this area specifically towards things that I've learned throughout the time hitting the streets, and that is that there is a huge problem with drug addiction, mental health, and homelessness in the Lewiston Auburn area. And of course, there's lots of other issues in the area, but those are the main. I decided that I wanted to take the idea of the Clothesline Project and kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit. And so for the event, we introduced the Clothesline Project with the homelessness series. And basically what that looked like was anyone who's been homeless or is homeless was provided a t-shirt and some, craft supplies, and they were told to just write whatever comes to mind when they think of their homelessness situation. And so we collected the shirts and we put them out on clotheslines for the public to see at the event. So it was a short, small and, slow start, but I do believe that this program is going to grow. Right now, the series I'm on is drug addiction. We all know there is a huge drug addiction problem.
Oh, yeah.
So we've already interacted with Tri-County, who invited us to table at the event that they're having on September 30th at Kennedy Park, where they're planning and hoping to have at least 40 tables tabling. And they're all going to be drug addiction counselors, resource providers, so on and so forth. So we're going to start working on getting people to get some shirts made that have been drug addicts or struggling with drug addiction to tell their story on the shirt. And it's just a wonderful, freeing experience. And the reason why, again, just like the ministry, the reason why I started this is it's personal to me. I actually participated in a Clothesline Project back in 2015. It was a project on abuse. And it was just something really freeing and powerful participating in it, because you get to tell your story and it's anonymous, and just very freeing. Just is something about being able to tell your story. And just like we as Christians, we see testimony as such a huge thing, right? And we're actually called to do it. It's in the Bible. But it's also freeing to just be able to tell your story, whether you're a Christian or not. And being able to provide people a safe place or a safe way to do that is really what I'm hoping to do. And along the way, also to get the support of resource providers that are specifically aligned with whatever the subject is. And the end game is I'm taking all the shirts to the Capitol at the end. And we're going to put all the shirts on display.
So now, when is your September event?
That's September 30th at Kennedy Park.
Okay, now the other thing is, how can the people help you to do your job better?
Awareness is very important. That's a huge thing because everything interlaps. As Sonia was saying, it's a multi-level, and we can do our bit where we can. And we all have things that God gives us. God gives us gifts of different things. And I think it's great for us to use those gifts in a way. So if they can, donate stuff to the store if need be, or they can contact us.
How can they contact you?
At the store, Loaves and Fishes Hidden Treasures in Lewiston. It's the corner of East Avenue and Lisbon Street. And then I have an email address too, lfhiddentreasures890@gmail.com.
Okay, and phone number?
207-333-5100 is the store number.
Oh, that's an interesting number.
Yep. So you can contact me. So a lot of our interaction from my street ministry takes place actually through social media. So you won't believe how many donations we get from people that come across our posts on Facebook. So we have a Facebook and Instagram, which is E'_NS Bramante, and that's BERMONTY. You can also just hashtag Operation You Matter if you're having issues finding us. My email is mylittleministry2021@gmail.com. I'll just spell MYLILMINISTRY2021@gmail.com. And that's some ways that you can get a hold of us. We also have a GoFundMe page and lots of information online, a Twitter account, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Can I just back up on what you asked, Sonia?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as far as the question, I believe, was how do we feel people could support us? Yep.
It'd be helpful to you.
Yeah. So, as Sonia said, just really everything we do outside of like the actual interaction, personal interaction with people, is to bring awareness. So that's the point of our events. That's, the point of whatever we post on social media, whatever interactions we have, the networking we do, so on and so forth. So as I stated earlier, one of the things that may not be so evident from someone looking from the outside in is that there's a huge disconnect between resources and resource providers and so on and so forth. But there's a huge disconnect with awareness. And so part of the issue is homeless people are being shuffled. So if you're just driving through Lewiston, it's evident that there's homeless people. It's not evident that there's a homeless problem.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a difference, and so awareness is really key. There's evidence that there's people on drugs. It's not maybe so evident that there's a drug problem, and it should be evident because we have a problem, and there is a huge problem. There's good people that are dying on these streets every day. There are people who are losing all awareness of who they actually were before whatever it is that they're going through transpired, and they're really losing themselves on these streets. So yeah, awareness, I would say, is definitely key. But if you can help us in any way, we as far as donations, that's helpful too. But just being just sharing the word.
So you need people to come out and help you share the word. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just sharing the word, hitting the streets. I mean, just having more compassion, even if we can't necessarily get people to hit the streets, just to change people's hearts.
Yeah.
And
wherever you are, it doesn't have to be at our events.
Right.
Wherever you are.
Absolutely.
I know that this past event we had a lot of families, a lot of elderly that are unhoused, and we saw more of that this year than we did the past events.
Right.
And that's, it gets to your heart. Our first event, we had an 83-year-old lady who was sitting up on the top of one of the seating areas at the park, and she's a French Canadian lady, and she lived in an apartment building for 20 years.
Wow.
And the landlord sold the building.
Oh, no.
And they had 30 days to move. She didn't have any family or anyone. And so she walked out of her apartment with whatever she could carry on a walker and left 20 years of stuff.
Oh, Lord.
And that just killed me.
Of course.
So people think, that unhoused is all drugs and alcohol. It is a huge problem. But there's other things too. I mean, it's a mixture. It's a mixture of things and stuff. But I wanted to read 1 John. 1 John 3:17-18. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. God's looking for active participants and not just bystanders.
Amen.
And I think we just need to, look at ourselves and see where we can each do our own part. Even your neighbor. I mean, years ago, we used to know what the other neighbor, if they needed help, we would cut their lawn, if they needed, and we don't have that communication like we used to. And I think that's important. Communication. And the unhoused, you don't know how many times we hear, thank you for noticing.
Oh.
No one's ever looked. They walk by and just turn their heads, which is crazy.
We've come to the end of our program here, so I wanted you to be able to say anything you wanted to say, but we don't have enough time.
Okay.
So, but we'll look forward to having you back again.
Yes, we look forward to coming back.
You've been listening to You Need to Know program, and I have had Sonia Belmonte here and Sonia Bennett here, and we've been sharing some of their heart things that they deal with every day on the street and in the Lewiston community. So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the opportunity. And give me your phone number just one more time.
So Sonia Bennett, 207-333-5100, and my own personal cell phone is 207-740-0244. And yeah, we appreciate coming here and being able to bring up the awareness. We're so grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Sonia Belmonte.
Yes, sir. So again, my email is mylittle Lil, Lil, 2021@gmail.com. And I'm actually looking for my phone number. Unfortunately, we had to.
How about 207-740-0244?
That's me.
That's you?
Yep.
That's the
Well,
other Sonia.
at least they'll get a hold of one of you, and then
Yeah, we get in contact
Yeah.
with each other.
gotta let you go though.
531-6685. Just
Okay.
found it.
207. Okay,
207.
okay. You've been listening to You Need to Know program, and thank you for being there, and God bless you all.